it's Robin Riley for Bello's Designs. Welcome to the second video in my series, Let's Create a Small Junk Journal. We recently started a new section in our videos all about junk journals, so check there periodically to see what we have created. Before we get started, I would love to invite you to join us in our Facebook groups. We have one called the Bello's Design Lounge, and that's where we showcase all of our Lavinia items. There's another page called the Bello's a la carte. There we showcase all of the other products that Patty currently has in her shop. You can join us on the other social media platforms such as Instagram, Pinterest, and TikTok. All you have to do is search the hashtag Bello's Designs. And make sure when you're on YouTube watching videos that you subscribe to our channel and you click that little bell so that you're notified of all of our newest videos that are posted. Okay, so today what we're going to do is create master boards for our journal. So let's look very quickly. We'll recap very quickly the journal that we've created so far. Using 4 business size envelopes, inking and gluing them together, we have created a very small junk journal. Each page has its own pocket. And then we created some journal cards using some double-sided paper and some plain paper. And that will be for our recipients to be able to journal their own thoughts. Each of the envelopes were cut on the edge so that you either have 1 or 2 pockets. That way you can place some neat ephemera that we're going to create inside. Okay, let's talk about the master board. So the master board is a very mindless process for creating. You don't want to think about this. What we'll do on the first master board is we are going to use scraps that we have saved from the paper that we used to create our junk journal. So I have a random pile, and I was using the Craft Consortium in the forest. I'm going to suggest that you use any of the Craft Consortium pages that you may have, simply because the GSM, the weight of this paper, is great, and it's perfect for creating a master board. So what I have are some random pieces, literally, of scraps that I have left over from the previous board that we're working on. And I also have, got them all mixed in here together, I have some scraps of paper that I had cut from an envelope that I received in the mail. Another scrap piece of an envelope. Here I have an envelope that I just received the other day, and I thought that color matched pretty well. So I'm going to just randomly cut some sheets of this. I'm not thinking about it. I am just cutting, just to cut. And I will be using them on this board. And you know what? Pay attention when you get packages in the mail. This is the paper that I cut some scraps from here, but items were wrapped in this paper, and this is great paper for junk journaling. All right, let me throw my scraps off to the side here, and we'll talk about the other supplies that I will be using. This is a piece of craft card that weighs 65 pounds. It's 8.5 by 11. I like using the 65-pound weight card when I am going to be adding scrap papers to the top of this, because you don't want it to be too thick that you can't cut it with your trimmer. So you want it thick enough that it's a nice sturdy card for journaling. I am not a fan of glue sticks, but I recently found this one. I have no idea how you pronounce it, UHU stick. It is definitely, as it says, it is strong and fast. It adheres quickly and it adheres strongly. I have yet to have anything fall apart when I use this. And in this case, I would really recommend using a glue stick versus a liquid glue, but you could use the liquid glue. There's no doubt. You could even Mod Podge if you wanted. It's just going to take longer to dry. That's the only drawback with using a liquid adhesive. Most definitely, you'll need a pair of scissors. I will be using this stamp Fieldgrass LAV 197, along with VersaFine Clear in Rainforest. And you will need some sort of a trimmer. But then again, if you don't have one, you could cut these cards out simply with scissors or a craft knife. Okay, let's get started. So using this glue stick, the method to this madness is not to think. What you're going to do, and I will suggest you work on a non-stick surface, that's definitely going to help. You are going to glue these pieces willy-nilly. You're not thinking about where they're going. You're not thinking about the color combinations. Hopefully your colors are coordinated anyway because of using the scraps from the previous part of this design. As you can see, I am very randomly going to place all of these pieces. It does not matter if they hang off the side of the card because you're going to be trimming that. So don't worry about that. Just let this be a fun process of design because the outcome will be so surprising when you see this. So I'm going to just proceed and add bits of pieces here and there, overlapping as I go. It is important to overlap, one of the main reasons being that maybe, let's say you didn't get enough glue all the way to the edge of one of your pieces of scraps. Well then, when you layer on top of that, that scrap piece will hold down that loose area. Now, you could add, if you had some coordinating washing tape or some that matched your color scheme that you're using, most definitely add that. That is a fun element. You can also add pieces of material. That is a fun element too, but just keep in mind, you're going to have to cut through this eventually. So, you know, kind of make it easy on yourself. You can even use these big wonky pieces. No reason not to. Let me get a good coat of glue on that. And as you can see, I'm not thinking about a thing. I am literally very randomly adding all of these pieces together. There I had a piece lifted there, and this will hold down that corner. So I'm going to continue doing this. There's no reason for you to have to watch me go through each scrap of mine. So I'm going to stop the video at this point. I'm going to finish my masterboard and then come back to you when it's all covered. So I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay guys, I'm back. So here you can see my masterboard. It looks like a hot mess, doesn't it? Everything going which direction, but it kind of has that patchwork look. So as I'm looking at it, I can see there's a few areas that I didn't get enough glue on. So I can just go over this and either add more glue or grab another piece of listen to me, another piece of scrap paper, put over the top. Since this is all going to turn into ephemera, I like the fact that it's all coordinated with what I have already created. So by flipping over, you can see I do have some pieces hanging off the edge. So I'm simply going to take my scissors and remove that. You don't have to do this, especially if you're using a large trimmer, but I am going to do this today because I'm only going to be using my small trimmer. That way you can see everything that's going on a lot easier. Okay. Now, the back of my card at this point is pretty plain, and that's pretty much what I was going for because I want to give my recipient a place to journal. So that is going to be nice if that's already done for me. Okay, so now that I have this random hot mess, here I see another piece popping up. Let me get some glue under there before we get any further along. Naturally, you can do this at any point of the process here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my stamp right now. Not that this isn't already visually busy. I'm going to add a little more to this by stamping. So using the acrylic block along with the VersaFine Claire Rainforest, I'm going to randomly stamp the field grass. And I'm going to aim for the areas that are kind of bland. I don't care what type of print I get. I don't care if it's missing pieces. It doesn't matter to me. I just want to add another element to my board. The idea basically is to just fill it up and cover it with as much as you can. This may be too visually stimulating for some of you, and I totally understand that. So the next board, though, that I'm going to show you, I think you'll see maybe something more pleasing for you. But this was the first one I ever created, was this patchwork kind of looking piece. So I wanted to share this option with you. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I am going to bring in my trimmer, and I am going to, just for today's purposes, I am going to cut these an ATC size card, which is 2.5 inches by 3.5 inches. You may want to take the time and think about this. If you are going to be creating larger tags, think about that measurement, and maybe that's how you want to cut this to fit a tag measurement. Again, it's all up to you, but let's get started. Flip it over. You don't want to see what you're cutting. I don't want you to be making decisions and being concerned that you're cutting something in half. This is the fun of it. The fun of it is to just randomly cut and see what you end up with. So I'm going to start at the 3.5 inch mark and cut off 3 of the strips. See why you don't want any thicker paper? If your trimmer is not super strong, you may have difficulty getting through. So keep your board light as far as the paper weight goes. So I'm getting 3 strips at 3.5 inches, along with this wonderful little piece that I can use later in my project, maybe to add to the ephemera. Next, we'll do the 2.5 inch measurement. Don't worry if they're not perfectly cut. That adds to the charm of this entire process. Again, I'm just going to have a small piece left over and hang on to it. I may want to use that in my book down the road here a little ways. So again, 2.5 inches now. Almost a mistake there. I caught that. And when I get done cutting these, we'll turn them over and get our surprise. Another piece of scrap that we can use later on. 2.5. All right, now let's check this out. Let's see what we ended up with. Some crazy looking ATC cards. Definitely are going to have the patchwork effect, but are going to coordinate awesomely well with the book that we have. So here we go. These are pretty crazy looking. I know they're very visually distracting in one sense, but think about edging the ends and the sides of this card. That would really be pretty, and that'll bring your focus in to the card. And naturally, these cards can be used in any direction. You don't have to go in the same direction that I'm going. Oh, that's a fun one. Okay, so that's your card. You got this great background all ready for journaling. You could ink this, you could add a little stamp to it, all of which we'll talk about in the next video, finishing up our ephemera pieces. Pop a hole in the top, add some string. It would make a cute tag as is. So let's see what this is going to look like in the journaling book we have created so far. So when I open this up, if I were to add this as another journaling element to my page, I can. Multiple cards can be placed in a pocket for journaling. You are not limited to just one. This is all up to you. I actually really like that combination. So imagine that being inked with possibly another tag on the top for pulling or some string. Again, next video, we'll get into all those fine-tuning elements of our journaling cards. But look how cute that is. I mean, it's darling. Same thing, these can be used in the pockets that we have created by cutting the sides. Nice little surprise element hiding in the pockets. Fit either direction. The only thing being that this is small and our pocket is a little deeper, you would want to add a pull tab or some string so that your recipient knew that there was something hiding inside. Awesome. I love how these turned out. Again, it may not be your thing, so keep watching. The next part of this video, you are going to see another masterboard created on a less visually distracting way. So you watch, you decide what you would like to make. Okay, guys, sorry about that hiccup. Somehow my phone stopped recording. So let's pick up where I left off. The next board that we're going to make, the next master board, will be out of a heavier weight cardstock. I want to use heavyweight because I'm not going to be adding any more layers to this as far as paper layers. So I want this to be sturdy so that the recipient has a nice card to journal upon. So for this, what I'm going to be using are the Elements inks. I'm going to be using these colors: olive, truffle, Sahara, paprika, Bermuda, and the Della Blue. I will be using my blending brushes to apply this. After I apply that, I'm going to be using some stencils, and these are the Lavinia stencils that I'll be using. I am going to use the Flower Mask stencil, which is ST025. I will use the Leaf Mask stencil, which is ST026. And I'll use the Tall Leaf Mask, ST021. And then I will be using the Fern Leaf stencil. I don't have the number for it, but it'll definitely be in the description box below. And lastly, I'll be using Ambiance. This is ST028. The stamp that I will be using will be the Lavinia See a Fairy Make-A-Wish stamp, which is LAV 485. And the one and only VersaFine Clair that I'll be using will be in Pinecone. Okay, let's get started. I am going to randomly place colors. Remember how I told you that our last master board, you are to be mindless. Don't think about this. I can almost do that with ink, but if you're going to be blending heavily, you are going to have to think about where you place this ink. Well, I definitely had more green on there, didn't I? Because that's supposed, oh no, this is olive, I'm sorry. Okay, so as you put this on, you're not thinking about where, you're not worrying about what the outcome is. You're not worrying by any means, and you're mindless. You're just applying ink and you're having a good old time. Now, we know our brain loves things done in odd numbers. So as you can see, I'm going to have 5 splotches of this olive color onto my card. And yes, I just mixed that into a blue brush and did not realize that. But you know what? I'm not going to worry about it. I'm jumping right into my Bermuda. And again, I'm going to add an odd number of areas using this color. I have a feeling that most of you are going to prefer this master board over the original one that I did with all the scrap papers. This one isn't as visually distracting as the first one was. Keep in mind now, if you are going to be extremely heavy-handed and you are going to be blending more, you want to be careful not to create mud unless that's what you're going for. Just be careful. I'm pretty light-handed here, and I am not seeing any blending of the inks actually take place. So I'm not worried about that. But it is something that you may have to take a moment and think about. Remember, this is just a mindless process. I'm continuing to work in odd numbers. 1, 2, 3, 2 more of this color. And a random spot there. This looks like a hot mess, doesn't it? But believe me, it's going to all come together just like that last one did. All right, let me bring in some of that beautiful truffle color. And randomly again, placing. This time I'm going to drop down to 3. Since my board is filling up, I'm only going to do 3 areas with this color. Again, that is your personal choice how you would like to do this. And all the colors that I have chosen, I went through rather carefully, and I wanted to make sure this was going to coordinate with my journal book. That's me. That is just me. You don't have to have that coordination. Junk journals can be extremely random. So Paprika next. So again, it's your own personal choice how you want to do this. All right, let me get a pop of this color. I do love, I don't know, there's probably not a color that I don't really like in this line. I really do like the Elements inks. They're just fun colors. Okay, last area is right up here in this corner. So there's those crazy random colors that I've chosen. Okay, so what I'm going to do next, let me bring all those inks back in because I'm going to reuse each one of these with a stencil. I'm going to start first with the leaf mask. And I am just, again, not thinking, very randomly. I'm going to use the stencil with the same color ink. So here I'm going on top of the Della Blue. I'm going to use the Della Blue again and just a portion of this stamp just to create something interesting to look at. Over the blue again, I'm going to add just a portion of this this stencil. Here's a little blue up here that I want to take care of, and in this corner. So now you can see some more interest developing in this on this board. Okay, remember to wash your stamps, I keep saying stamps. Remember to wash your stencils. This is water-based, so it can sit for a long while before you get it into the water. But do that. That way you don't get a sloppy mess. Okay, next one we're going to do. Let's jump in with the olive color. This is all random. I'm going to bring that leaf back in just because. And I'm going to place these elements of each mask very randomly on the coordinating color. Again, I'm trying not to overthink this by any means. I'm just slopping it on. I can do a little bit here in this green area, and there's a wee little there. Again, this is just my method. You don't have to follow my method, just some suggestions. Okay, I'm going to bring in that Bermuda. And I'll use the flower mask for that. And I'm going to just, again, very randomly, add some interest to that same area. All right. And you know what? I think it's a combination of some Bermuda there. All right, so you can see how this is turning into a fun background. Like I said earlier, my goodness, you don't have to cut these up into cards. You could cut these up into card bases, and that would be fun. Okay, let's use that feather leaf stencil, and I think I'll use the paprika color for that. Again, very random, just to add some uniqueness to this piece. I do like this type of board here. You can use, when you think about it, you could use, my goodness, you could use the distress sprays. You could definitely use the distress oxides. You can use watercolors here. Okay, coming in now with the ambiance. Let me just add some of this stencil in those areas. I do like using the one ink, getting the two different shades. I think that's just a fun way to create some interest here. All right, let me pick, I think what I'll do is I'm going to pick this stencil again, since it's one of my favorites to use with the truffle. See, I've really gone into no think mode here. I see one more area here. And I do see an area here that I want to cover with the stencil. So let me grab that ambiance, and I'm just going to use the ink that's on my green. All right, I think I have all the areas covered to my liking. Let me clean this up. And we're going to do the same process as far as cutting. Again, in my mind, I'm just cutting the ATC size, the 2.5 by 3.5 inch. You may want to stop and think a little bit. Whoops, you know what? I forgot something. Whoa, let's not forget the sentiment. I wanted to add that. Sorry about that, guys. See what happens when you go into that non-thinking mode? I forget a step. Okay, so very randomly. I don't care if it's upside down. It doesn't matter. I just want to get another layer here of interest. I'm stamping over top. I'm just really stamping willy-nilly over everything that I'm doing. That's going to work, and that's going to suffice me. Let me wipe my stamp off quickly, guys, and then I'll go into the cutting. Now, you might want to take a moment here and think, you know, what kind of ephemera, what kind of elements you want to add to your book. If you want to cut tags, such as this size, maybe that's the size of strip you want to cut so that you'll already be partway there with your tag. If you have no idea what you want to do yet as far as ephemera goes, then just do what I'm doing. Just cut the ATC size. Remember, no looking. It'll keep you from thinking. All right, 3.5 inches first we're going to do. And then 2.5 inches. And then we'll take a look at how our cards turned out. Now, as you can probably see, I'm getting some fingerprints and some ink smudges on the back of where my recipient will journal, but I'm not concerned about that. That's okay. That's kind of part of the design that I didn't think about, and it just happened. So that's all good. Okay, and then the last set. All right, one more. Save these pieces. You may want them for some ephemera down the road here in our junk journal. All right, let's take a peek at our cards and see how they came out. Ooh, I'm loving that combination already. Oh, very cool, very cool. Exactly what I wanted to see, some real random designs. Oh, I think I had, there it is. I did have two stuck together. Okay, these are awesome. These came out great. Let's take a peek of what they will look like if I use it as a card. Great combination. That looks wonderful. So I could pop a hole in that, add a little piece of string to it. I can edge this, all of which we'll discuss in the very last video to this series, how to create the ephemera. And these fit nicely into the side pockets that we have. They're a little short, so we would want to add a string, a pull tab, something on the edge so that your recipient would know there's something hiding in there. So fun. These are looking good. The colors I chose, I feel match rather well. It kind of brings it all together. Okay, everyone, that's where I'm going to leave you today. I appreciate you taking the time watching and seeing how we create 2 different types of masterboards. Let your creativity flow and don't overthink it. That's the best part of this type of creation. And I will see you in the next video where we will take everything we've done now, create our own ephemera, and finish off our journal books. Thanks so much for watching, guys. See you soon.